At a time when travel depended on fair winds and bone-rattling coaches, Handel was frequently on the move. Any performer had to stay on the leading edge of musical fashion, which meant seizing opportunities whenever they arose. Handel had accepted the position in Hanover on the condition that he be allowed to pursue other engagements. Given the reception of his latest work in Venice, he was known to prominent families from across Europe, and he had good reason to believe that further invitations would be forthcoming wherever he placed his talent on offer. After a visit to his mother in Halle, he set off across Germany, passed into Holland, and then boarded a ship on the North Sea. In the autumn of 1710, he set foot for the first time in Great Britain. Foreign observers had long perceived England as something close to a failed state, a devil land mired in revolution, political conspiracy, and murder. The country was just emerging from more than a century and a half of religious and political disputes, similar to those that Handel's family had experienced in the Holy Roman Empire. In the early 17th century, the Stuart dynasty, with its roots in Scotland, had drawn together the English and Scottish thrones under a single monarch, James I, or to Scots, James VI. By the 1640s, however, old resentments over religion and local power had sparked widespread violence in Scotland and Ireland, which radiated into England as a civil war that pitted supporters of King Charles I against the forces of Parliament. Charles was captured and beheaded, and in his place Oliver Cromwell led a parliamentary republic guided by the strict teachings of Puritanism. It was only in 1660 that the Stuart line was restored under Charles's son, crowned Charles II, and a degree of peace, at least temporarily, secured. The Restoration had changed Britain and its capital in profound and visible ways. By his 25th birthday, Handel had visited some of the greatest cities on the continent, but nothing would have prepared him for London, a metropolis of more than 600,000 people, on its way to becoming the largest city in Europe, as well as its commercial centre. The only built passage across the Thames was the narrow London Bridge, whose roadway was hemmed in by shop fronts. But on the water below, the writer and pamphleteer Daniel Defoe counted 2,000 sea-going ships moored or under sail, plus barges, pleasure boats, and other river craft. The Italian painter Canaletto would later render the busy waterscape as a kind of northern Venice, with crowded quays and outdoor staircases descending to the water from palatial riverside homes. "I shall not give you my opinion of every distinct thing in this city, or an encomium of its beauty and ornaments," reported a German visitor, Christian Heinrich Handel, a physician like Handel's father, "lest the splendour of so august a city should be diminished by my weak description." Few places so fully showcased the ability of humans to destroy their surroundings as well as to resurrect them. The Great Fire of 1666 had swept through the oldest quarters of the city, but since then, medieval houses and streets had surrendered to new squares and public works that radiated confidence. A prodigy of buildings that nothing in the world does or ever did surpass, except old Rome in Trajan's time, as Defoe described it. Others were harsher in their assessments. An aspiring writer named Jonathan Swift made a checklist of the things London gutters carried toward the river in a rainstorm. Sweepings from butchers' stalls, dung, guts, and blood, drowned puppies' stinking sprats, all drenched in mud, dead cats and turnip tops come tumbling down the flood. Still, anyone who walked along the Thames could have captured the city's transformation in a single glance along the north bank. In the foreground was the Tower of London, ancient and fearsome, while farther upriver, St. Paul's Cathedral, Christopher Wren's masterpiece of lightness and grandeur, presided over new courts and guild halls. Its dome had been topped out just 2 years before Handel arrived.